Arjuna submitted three different questions, and the Lord answers them one after another. In these verses, Krishna first indicates that a person transcendentally situated has no envy and does not hanker for anything. When a living entity stays in this material world embodied by the material body, it is to be understood that he is under the control of one of the three modes of the material nature. When he is actually out of the body, then he is out of the clutches of the material modes of nature. But as long as he is not out of the material body, he should be neutral. He should engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord so that his identity with the material body will automatically be forgotten. When one is conscious of the material body, he acts only for sense gratification. But when one transfers the consciousness to Krishna, sense gratification automatically stops. One does not need this material body, and he does not need to accept the dictations of the material body. The qualities of the material modes in the body will act, but as the spirit soul, the self is aloof from such activities. How does he become aloof? He does not desire to enjoy the body, nor does he desire to get out of it. Thus, transcendently situated, the devotee becomes automatically free. He need not try to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. So, what Prabhupada is telling regarding the symptoms which Krishna has mentioned about the symptom of transcendence. So Arjuna submitted three different questions that we saw. The Lord answers them one after another. In these verses, 22 to 25, Krishna first indicates that a person is transcendentally situated, has no envy, and doesn't hanker for anything. This is the first symptom proper. Doesn't hanker is second. No envy and doesn't hanker for anything. When a living entity stays in the material world, embodied by the material body, it is to be understood that he is under the control of one of the three modes of material nature. When we saw that one of the name of modes is material nature. Somebody has a body. So how one receives the body? Who gives the body to living entities?
Material world.
Material
Prakriti.
nature. Prakriti gives the body to living entities. When Prakriti is giving the body, means this body is under the three modes. When he actually is out of the body, then he is out of the clutches of the material modes of nature. When doesn't have the body, at that time only one is out of the three modes. But as long as he is not out of the material body, he should be neutral. And how we should be behaving in this body, Prabhupada is telling, we should be neutral. He should engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. While remaining neutral, what we should do? We should practice the devotional service. And what will happen? That our identity with the material body will automatically be forgotten. Just by practice of devotional service, what will happen? Detachment will come. And by that detachment, we will be detached from our body. When one is conscious of the material body, he acts only for sense gratification. But when one transfers the consciousness to Krishna, sense gratification automatically stops. So devotees, when they take care of body, what is their consciousness? What is their consciousness? Why they take care of the body?
He used the body in order to serve Krishna.
Yes, thank you. So devotee takes care of the body in order to practice devotional service and in a systematic, nice way. And So that is the reason. Then what devotee is doing? He is transferring his body, taking care of body consciousness. To where he is transferring that consciousness? To devotional service. Means that is only he is transferring his consciousness from this body to Krishna. And for what purpose? He is taking care of the body. Just for practice of devotional service. So in that way, what we have to do, Prabhupada is telling, when one transfers the consciousness to Krishna, sense gratification automatically stops. Then devotee, what he will do, although he likes the particular atom of prasad, he will take in a moderate way. Because he will understand that if I overeat, then what will happen? That I cannot serve Krishna in a better way. So automatically what is happened? His overeating is stopped and atyahar is reduced. And when it is reduced, when he is transferring his consciousness to Krishna. So that is important. One doesn't need this material body, and he doesn't need to accept the dictations of the material body. It is not
Hare Krishna,
needed.
Prabhuji, your voice is coming very low.
Okay. Just I will change the earphones.
Hare Krishna. Now, Prabhu, same.
No, Prabhu, this is much better. Thank you, Prabhu.
It is
Better,
much
Prabhu.
better. Prabhu.
Where we are now. The qualities of the material modes in the body will act. Yeah. But as a spirit soul, the self is aloof from such activities. So, what Prabhupada is telling, the qualities of the material modes in the body will act, and modes will be there. And then what happens? But a living entity, the self, is aloof from such activities. And when he transfers the consciousness to Krishna, then what happens? How does he becomes aloof? And just by transferring consciousness, he doesn't desire to enjoy the body, and that I explained. He doesn't desire to enjoy, nor does he desire to get out of it, and because he requires the body, and that's why he doesn't have desire to get out of the body. Why he requires to use it in devotional service. Thus, transcendentally situated, the devotee becomes automatically free. He need not try to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. So Prabhupada is telling devotee doesn't try to become free from the influence of material nature. He just engages his body in devotional service. Then automatically he is freed from the he is on the transcendental platform, and he is freed from the influence of the body. Next.
The next question concerns the dealing of a transcendentally situated person. The materially situated person is affected by so-called honor and dishonor offered to the body, but the transcendentally situated person is not affected by such false honor and dishonor. He performs his duty in Krishna consciousness and does not mind whether a man honors or dishonors him. He accepts things that are favorable for his duty in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, he has no necessity of anything material, either a stone or gold. He takes everyone as his dear friend to help him in his execution of Krishna consciousness. He does not hate his so-called enemy. He is equally disposed and sees everything on an equal level because he knows perfectly well that he has nothing to do with the material existence. Social and political issues do not affect him because he knows the situation of temporary upheavals and disturbances. He does not attempt of he does not attempt anything for his own sake. He can attempt anything for Krishna, but for his personal self, he does not attempt anything. By such behavior, one becomes actually transcendentally situated.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, sorry. We just see what Prabhupada is telling. And Prabhupada is telling the next question concerns the dealing of a transcendentally situated person. And now the Prabhupada is explaining about the devotee, how he transcends and the modes. Then after transcending, he is situated on the transcendental platform. When Prabhupada is asking the question, the dealing of that person, how it will be. The materially situated person is affected by so-called honor and dishonor. But the transcendentally situated person is not affected by such false honor and dishonor. He is not affected. He gets honor or dishonor. And what is his focus? Practice of devotional service. He performs his duty in Krishna consciousness. That is his focus. And doesn't mind whether a man honors or dishonors him. He accepts things that are favorable for his duty in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, he has no necessity of anything material, either a stone or gold. He takes everyone as his dear friend who helps him in his execution of Krishna consciousness. Then another his behavior. Prabhupada is telling that how he considers the friend and enemy, how he deals with them. So everyone is his friend, and he doesn't consider anybody as his enemy, who helps in execution of Krishna consciousness and doesn't hate his so-called enemy. So-called, they are not actually, he knows they are so-called enemy. He is equally disposed and sees everything on an equal level because he knows perfectly well that he has nothing to do with the material existence. So here Prabhupada has given the reason why he is equal in all level, because he has nothing to do with this material existence, these modes, and with this prakriti material nature. Social and political issues do not affect him because he knows the situation of temporary upheavals and disturbances. He doesn't attempt anything for his own sake. He can attempt anything for Krishna, but for his personal sake, He doesn't attempt anything. By such behavior, one becomes actually transcendentally situated. In short, what Prabhupada has mentioned, at we saw that duality is there. Why duality is there? Because of modes. And because of mode, duality is there. And he is transcendentally situated, and is above modes, and that devotee. Then he automatically, what is happening? He is above the duality also. That's why he is, Prabhupada again and again mentioning, he is equal and towards this duality. That is his behavior in short. Correct? Then, so till now, Krishna has answered the two questions. And what are his symptoms and behavior? Correct? So now, which question is remained? What is the third question which remain to answer?
How does he transcend the three modes of nature?
How does he transcends? So, Prabhupada has already given the answer. In purport, Prabhupada has given the answer. So, what was the answer which Prabhupada has given? We saw in this 22nd to 25th verse purport, Prabhupada has given the answer how that person transcends the modes. How he transcends. We saw in a purport. What Prabhupada has told. How that person is transcending. Here told, first paragraph. What Prabhupada has told? By practice of devotional service, by transferring his consciousness from his bodily consciousness to Krishna consciousness, and by practice of devotional service. So that Prabhupada knows, and Krishna has given that answer. So Prabhupada has told before only. Krishna has given the same answer. What Krishna is giving answer? Mam chayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati etan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So what Krishna has told, Mam cha yo avyabhicharena. Matlab, means what he is telling, Mam cha yo, yo means a person who, and that a person who has what he is doing, that person avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. So means one pointedly what he is practicing, devotional service, avyabhicharena, without fail or without any diversion, avyabhicharena. He is practicing devotional service. And sagunan samati yetan. Samati yetan. So all modes he is what he is transcending by practice of bhakti yogena sevate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, without any disturbance, distraction, at once transcend the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Krishna has told the answer for third question. This verse is a reply to Arjuna's third question. What is the means of attaining to the transcendental position. How one can transcend the modes. As explained before. So somebody can read, sorry.
This verse, may I, Prabhuji?
Yes.
This verse is a reply to Arjun's third question. What is the means of attaining to the transcendental position? As explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of the modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. Krishna activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. This includes not only Krishna but his different plenary expansions such as Ram and Narayana. He has innumerable expansions. One who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or his plenary expansions is considered to be transcendentally situated. One should also note that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. Such personalities of Godhead are omnipotent and omniscient, and they possess all the transcendental qualities. So, if one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, one can overcome them easily. This has already been explained in the seventh chapter. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to acquire equality with Krishna.
Thank you. So Prabhupada is explaining. So this I have told before only that this verse is reply to Arjuna's third question. As explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of the modes of nature. This also we know. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. And last purport only, Prabhupada has told this point. Krishna activities are Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. Then, there is mention of the word Krishna in Krishna activity. So Prabhupada is explaining the word Krishna. So Krishna means not only Krishna, but also his different expansions, such as Rama and Narayan. He has innumerable expansions. So there is a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, which meaning of that verse is how many incarnations are there of the Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that verse says that how many tides are there in the ocean, that many incarnations are there. We cannot count the tides and waves in the ocean. And so similarly, we cannot count the expansion of the Lord. One who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or his plenary expansion is considered to be transcendentally situated. So that's why we worship Vishnu or his expansion. Like Prabhupada has established the worship of Narsimha Devas, which is incarnation, one of the incarnation. And also another incarnation is Rama, and Ram, Lakshman, Sita, Hanuman. That worship also Prabhupada has started. So, which was not before in Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time. Narsimharti was there in Narsimha worship, but Rama worship, Ram temple, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has not established. one should also note that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. So all these forms are Satchidananda forms, and they are eternal forms. They are not temporary forms, incarnations. They are not temporary. Such personality of Godhead are omnipotent and omniscient, and they possess all transcendental qualities. So if one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, one can overcome them easily. Where this Krishna has mentioned in 7th chapter. What was the verse? Somebody remembers?
You may.
Where,
Can I say, Prabhuji?
yes,
Hare Krishna.
yes.
Gunya Nishya Nishya Gunya Bhava Arjuna. Is it the sloka?
No. Yes, Raj Bro.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Devi Esha Gurmai Mamma Duratya.
Yes. Say complete.
Yeah. Devi Esha Gurmai Mamma Duratya. Mame Eva Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite.
Thank you. So they are very difficult. Mama Maya Duratya. Difficult to overcome. But one can overcome them easily. And so who can overcome? Who is engaged? Mama and Mameva Prapadyante. He is engaged in devotional service, means he has taken shelter of Krishna. This has already been explained in the 7th chapter, 7.14. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to acquire equality with Krishna. So what happens when we practice Krishna consciousness and we become equal in quality with Krishna, and when we are practicing devotional service at that time. Okay. Somebody can read next.
May I, Prabhuji?
Yes.
The Lord says that his nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. And I'll read it again, Prabhuji. The screen
Yes.
just got confused.
Yes.
The Lord says that his nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme. As gold particles are the part of gold mine, thus the living entity in his spiritual position is as good as gold, as good as Krishna in quality. The difference of individuality continues, otherwise there would be no question of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means that the Lord is there, the devotee is there, and the activity of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee is there. Therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the individual person, otherwise there would be no meaning of Bhakti Yoga. If one is not situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord. To be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualifications. Thus, the qualification is to become Brahman or freed from all material contamination. It is said in the Vedic literature, Brahmaiva san Brahmapi iti. one can attain the supreme Brahman by becoming Brahman. This means that one must qualitatively become one with Brahman. By attainment of Brahman, one does not lose his eternal Brahman identity as an individual soul.
Thank you, bro. So, in the verse and in translation, what Krishna has mentioned that thus the living entity comes to the level of Brahman. And so Krishna has mentioned. So Prabhupada is clarifying this line from the translation. So what Prabhupada is telling, the Lord says that his nature is eternal, and that we know, blissful and full of knowledge. This living in Satchidananda. Lord's nature is Satchidananda Vigraha. And the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme. And as gold particles are part of the gold mine. And we know that we are in same quality with Krishna, but different in quantity. Thus, the living entity in this spiritual position is as good as gold, as good as Krishna in quality. The difference of an individual continues. Otherwise, there would be no question of Bhakti Yoga. So what happened? Brahman means if we consider and assume, and as we assume in mathematics. So similarly, Prabhupada is telling that if we assume that we are the same Brahman, there is no difference between us and Krishna, then what will happen? That we cannot practice Bhakti Yoga. How? And if both of us are one, and for Bhakti Yoga and for practice of Bhakti Yoga, there should be two living entities and two living entities, and the one is Lord and another is living entity. And two things are required for practice of Bhakti Yoga. If we are becoming same and we are merging Brahmans, if we take the meaning of Brahman as merging in Krishna, then what is happening? Our individuality is will be destroyed. Then what will happen? Bhakti Yoga, we cannot practice Bhakti Yoga because there is only one personality and a Brahman, and because both of them are merged. So Bhakti Yoga means the Lord is there and the devotee is there. So Prabhupada is explaining. So Bhakti Yoga means two people are required. One is Lord and another is his devotee. And the activity of exchange of love between the Lord and devotee is Bhakti Yoga. And therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the individual person. That's why they are separate and they cannot be one. And otherwise, there would be no meaning to Bhakti Yoga. And if one is not situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord. So, what is the meaning of the Brahman then? We are on the same platform when we practice Bhakti Yoga. Where Krishna is there, there is only devotee. Why? Because on the same platform only we can serve Krishna. To be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualifications. So Prabhupada is mentioning here that everything requires qualification. To become the minister or a servant of a king, we require some qualification. So similarly, devotional service also requires some qualification. Thus, the qualification is to become Brahman or freed from all material contamination. It is stated in the Vedic literatures, Brahma eva san Brahmapya iti. So, to be situated on the platform of Brahman or to be freed from material contamination. So that is qualification for what? for practice of devotional service. Like this Prabhupada stated. One can attain the supreme Brahman by becoming a Brahman. This means that one must qualitatively become one with the Brahman. We are not completely merging, and our identity is there. We are individual. By attainment of Brahman, one doesn't lose his eternal Brahman identity as an individual soul. So our identity will be as it is, and it will not be destroyed. That we are individual soul. This is translations line Prabhupada as mentioned. So what till now what has happened? Krishna has given answer to all three questions of Arjuna. Correct? So nothing is remained. Then now here the word Krishna has introduced the word Brahman. So to clarify, and like Prabhupada has clarified the word Brahman in his purport. So Krishna gives clarification on that word Brahman, which he has used in the 26th verse. So how we can understand that Brahman? So Krishna himself gives the explanation. What he gives the explanation, we will read that. So Krishna tells that Brahmano hi pratisthaham amrutasya ya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukha ekantikasya cha. What Krishna is telling. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman. So that Brahman, which he has mentioned previously in 26th verse. So Krishna is telling, I am the basis of that Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of the ultimate happiness. So ultimate happiness begins from that level. That is the constitutional position. So, like in short, what Krishna has mentioned, that Brahman is me only, and it is coming from me only, because he is the basis. Krishna is the basis. So we can say that that Brahman is coming from Krishna only. So that Brahman is Krishna. The constitution of Brahman is immortality, imperishability, and eternity, and happiness. So these are characteristics, important 4 characteristics, which Krishna has mentioned in the verse. Somebody can read. Brahman is the beginning of the transcendental realization. Paramatma, the super soul, is the middle. The second stage is transcendental realization. The supreme personality of Godhead is the ultimate realization of the absolute truth. Therefore, both Paramatma and the impersonal Brahman are within the supreme person. This is, we know, this is from Bhagavatam 1.2.11. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam tattvam yajna Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagwaniti Shabdate. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagwaniti Shabdate. So there are 3 we know, Bhagwan, Paramatma, and Brahman. And Bhagwan has both of these included in Bhagwan. So it is explained in the 7th chapter that material nature is the manifestation of the inferior energy, and that we know that it is Paraprakriti, material of the Supreme Lord. And the Lord impregnates the inferior material nature with the fragments of the superior nature. And that is the spiritual touch in the material nature. that Krishna has mentioned in the same chapter. So he impregnates that para prakriti with living entities, and which are apara prakriti. Somebody can read the yellow one.
When a living entity, conditioned by this material nature, begins the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, he elevates himself from the position of material existence and gradually rises up to the Brahman conception of the Supreme. This attainment of the Brahman conception of life is the first stage in self realization. At this stage, the Brahman realized person is transcendental to the material position, but he is not actually perfect in Brahman realization. If he wants, he can continue to stay in the Brahman position and then gradually rise up to Paramatma realization and then to the realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many examples of this in Vedic literature. The four Kumaras, they were situated first in the impersonal Brahman conception of the truth, but then they gradually rose to the platform of devotional service. One who cannot elevate himself beyond the impersonal conception of Brahman runs the risk of falling down.
Thank you. So what Prabhupada has told here is that when living entity we know, a condition means he is bound by the material nature. Then Krishna has mentioned in 19th verse that by knowledge, by spiritual knowledge, he can elevate himself and, from material existence and gradually rises to Brahman conception of the Supreme. Then from these Brahman conceptions, one can come to the Paramatma realization slowly, and then to the Supreme Personality of Godhead conception, Bhagwan conception. So he can, one can practice, and for that Prabhupada has given example also, like four Kumaras. Before they were Brahmavadis. So they are practitioner of worship. Sorry, they are worshippers of impersonal Brahman. But when they come to Vaikuntha, and there they smelled the fragrance of tulsi leaves, and then what they become devotees, and they came to the platform of devotional service. This we know. Then somebody cannot elevate like four Kumaras from the Brahman, and then he may fall down. So Prabhupada, there is one verse in 10th canto that this mentions that the persons who consider themselves liberated, and they can fall down. Prabhupada writes there. So that's why if one is not going up, then that person has to come down. This we know. Somebody can read the green one.
In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that although a person may rise to the stage of impersonal Brahman without going further with no information of the Supreme Person, his intelligence is not perfectly clear. Therefore, in spite of being raised to the Brahman platform, there is the chance of falling down if one is not engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. In the Vedic language, it is also said, Raso vai saha rasam hyavedam labdvanandi bhavati. When one understands the personality of Godhead, the reservoir of pleasure, Krishna, he actually becomes transcendently blissful. Taittiriya Upanishad 2:7.
Thank you. So what then Prabhupada is mentioning next, that Srimad Bhagavatam and mentions that a person may rise to the stage of impersonal Brahman without going further with no information of the Supreme Person. his intelligence is not perfectly clear. So um, he he has come to the level of Brahman, and, but still there are some impurities and, in his consciousness, in his intelligence. And when he has reached to Bhagwan platform, at that time only there is a clarity in his intelligence. Therefore, so Prabhupada is telling that from Brahman platform, he is again repeating, there is a chance of falling down if one is not engaged in devotional service. If one is engaged in devotional service, then there is no problem. So it is, he is giving reference. Raso vai saha rasanti evayam labdhva nandi bhavati. Yes. When one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just the reservoir of all pleasure, Raso vai saha, Krishna, he actually becomes transcendently peaceful. So that's why, in search of bliss and in search of happiness, that person falls down from the Brahman platform. Next.
The Supreme Lord is full.
Yes, sir.
Full of opulences, and when a devotee approaches him, there is an exchange of these six opulences. The servant of the king enjoys on an most equal level with the king, and so eternal happiness, immeasurable happiness, and
Network is not there.
eternal,
Somebody else can give.
eternal life accompany devotional service. Therefore, realization of the Brahman or
I am not able to hear. Others are able to hear Prabhuji's voice.
No, Prabhuji, lagging.
Okay. You can read, Mataji.
somebody else can read, Prabhuji.
The Supreme Lord is full in six opulences, and when a devotee approaches him, there is an exchange of these six opulences. The servant of the king enjoys on an almost equal level with the king, and so the eternal happiness, imperishable happiness, and the eternal life accompany devotional service. Therefore, realization of Brahman or eternity or imperishability is included in devotional service. This is already possessed by a person who is engaged in devotional service.
Thank you. So, like before, also Prabhupada has mentioned this point that a devotional service has already, all of you have written one OBALs on this topic. Devotional service has all the limbs included of lower rungs of yoga ladder. So similar, same conclusion Prabhupada is taking here, that devotional service already has the realization of Brahman and uh, eternity, imperishability. That realization is already included in the realization of the Bhagwan feature. Next, somebody. Green.
The living entity, although Brahman by nature, has the desire to lord it over the material world, and due to this, he falls down in his constitutional position. The living entity is above the three modes of material nature, but association with material nature entangles him in the different modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Due to the association of these three modes, his desire to dominate the material world is there. By investment in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, he is immediately situated in the transcendental position, and his unlawful desire to control the material nature is removed. Therefore, the process of devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, remembering the prescribed 9 methods for realizing devotional service, should be practiced in the association of devotees. Gradually, by such association, by the influence of the spiritual master, one's material desire to dominate is removed, and one becomes firmly situated in the Lord's transcendental loving service. This method is prescribed for the 22nd to the last verse of this chapter. Devotional service to the Lord is very simple. One should always engage in the service of the Lord, should eat the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the deity, smell the flowers offered to the lotus feet of Lord, see the place where the Lord has his transcendental pastimes, read of the different activities of the Lord, his reciprocation of love with his devotees, chant always the transcendental vibration Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and observe the fasting days commemorating the appearances and disappearances of the Lord and his devotees. By following such a process, one becomes completely detached from all material activities. One who can thus situate himself in the Brahma Jyoti or the different varieties of the Brahman conception is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in equality.
Thank you, Prabhu. So what Prabhupada is mentioning, so when we reach to Brahman platform and we are same in quality like the Brahman, and but before that, now Prabhupada is changed the case, and he is mentioning about the time when the living entity has not reached the Brahman platform, when he is conditioned, and at that time, what is the desire of living entity? He wants to control. Now we have studied in 13th chapter over the material world, and because of that desire, and he has fallen down from the platform of Brahman. In his constitutional position, a living entity is above the 3 modes of material nature. That is our constitutional position, eternal position. But because of association with the material nature, we have come under the influence of different modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Due to the association of these 3 modes, his desire to dominate the material world is there. And that's why then that desire is remained, and because of influence of mode. By engagement in devotional service, and he is immediately situated in the transcendental position, and his unlawful desire to control material nature is removed. Therefore, the process of devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, remembering, and so by practice of devotional service, and what happens? We can transcend the modes. Then now Prabhupada is mentioning how we can practice the devotional service, beginning with the hearing, chanting, remembering, and realizing devotional service. Should be practiced in the association of devotees. Gradually, by such association, by the influence of the spiritual masters, one's material desire to dominate is removed. Gradually, by practice of devotional service, that desire will go away. This method is prescribed from, it is mentioned from 22nd verse to the last verse of the 27th verse. One should always engage in the service of the Lord and should eat remnants of food stuff offered to the deity. Now, the different links Prabhupada is giving and how we can practice devotional service. And So one is first is honoring prasadam, and then second is smelling the flowers and offer to the deities, and third is mathuravas, and staying in the places where Lord has performed the pastime. Then fourth Prabhupada has mentioned reading the scriptures like Bhagavatam. And then fifth is association of devotee. And then sixth Prabhupada has mentioned chanting holy name. Then seventh is fasting and appearance, disappearance, and then on Ekadashi also we fast. Seventh, Prabhupada has given 7. So how many are there total? There are 64 total. And you will study this in your Bhakti Rasamrut Sindhu book. It will be covered in future, in all 64 in detail. So by following such a process, one becomes completely detached from all material activities. So why? Because one will be on the transcendental level, and he will transcend the most. One who can thus situated himself in the Brahma Jyoti or the different variety of Brahman conception is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in quality. So when we situate ourselves on that Brahman platform, that we are in the same quality as Supreme Personality of God. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose to the 14th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the 3 modes of material nature. So now we have completed the chapter 14 here. Somebody has any question till now? Whatever we have discussed, anything you have not understood in this 14th chapter? No? Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So now we have completed the 14th chapter, and now we will begin the 15th chapter. So title of the 15th chapter is Yoga of the Supreme Person. So now, so what we have learned is the knowledge of the 3 modes in 14th chapter. So now Krishna explains this knowledge of 3 modes with one analogy of Ashwatha tree in the beginning of this chapter. Then we know that the purpose of devotional service is to know Krishna. So that's why Krishna mentions then his supremacy and his own supremacy. And that's why this chapter is titled as the Yoga of the Supreme Person. Krishna explains his own supremacy, how he is a supreme person, how Krishna is supreme. That he mentioned in the rest of the chapters. First, he gives the analogy. Then he mentions the who is the supreme person. Okay. Then these are some connections and how the 15th chapter came from the 14th chapter. So then we'll see what analogy Krishna is giving to explain the modes of material nature. So Krishna is telling, Urdhvamulam adhashakham ashvatham prahuravyayam chandansi yasya parnani yastam veda sa vedavid. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree. Ashwatham Prahur Avyayam. And it has its roots. What happened?
Problem my side, I'm not able to see the shades. Others are fine.
What happened, bro?
I'm not
Network
able to
is.
see the shade screen. Shade screen, I'm not able to see. Are others able to see? Just wanted to check.
I'm able to see Prabhu. Just
Okay, bro. Yeah, maybe my network. Yes, I'll disconnect and connect.
Hare.
Then what Krishna is saying here is that there is an imperishable banyan tree, and speciality of this tree is that it has roots upward, and roots are upward, and its branches are downward, and branches are downward like this, and whose leaves are Vedic hymns, and there are leaves on the branches. These are Vedic leaves, Vedic hymns, sorry. Means shlokas. Hymns means shlokas, Vedic shlokas. And one who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. So although shlokas, so who is knower of the Bhagavad Gita? One who knows the shlokas of Bhagavad Gita is the knower of Bhagavad Gita, correct? What is there in Bhagavad Gita? Shlokas only, correct? So what Krishna has mentioned here, that whose leaves are Vedic hymns. So these leaves, and these are only shlokas of Vedas. And then those who know these leaves, and is the knower of the Vedas, correct? By common sense. But no, there is some speciality. So what Krishna is mentioning, one who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Complete tree one has to know. And not only leaves. And although leaves are the Vedic hymns, but one should know the complete tree. And one who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. And who is the actual knower of the Veda? Who knows the complete tree? Prabhupada will explain in his purport. At that time, we will see again. Translation is clear. So, what is the Krishna is giving the analogy of a Ashwattha tree. So, in this section, we know that Krishna is very systematically, he is chapter 13 to 18. Very systematically, Krishna is explaining how Jnana leads to Bhakti. And now here Krishna will describe in this chapter Purushottam Yoga and how he is supreme, and that he will elaborate in a little different way, and then after that he mentioned the Purushottam Yoga and yoga of the supreme person. Okay, so now this the beginning, yellow one, somebody can read.
After the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, one may question What about the Vedas? It is explained in this chapter that the purpose of Vedic study is to understand Krishna. Therefore, one who is in Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. Hare.
Thank you. So what last two verses and of 14th chapter, Krishna has glorified the devotional service. 14.26 and 27. 27 is in sequence with 20, but especially in 26th. And Mam chayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. So there Krishna has mentioned that just by practice of bhakti yoga, one can transcend the modes. Then one may think, one may have question, then bhakti is sufficient for transcending the modes. Then what about the Vedas? And what is mentioned in the Vedas then? One may have this question. So that question is answered in this chapter, Prabhupada is telling. And the purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. And by practice of devotional service also, one can understand Krishna. And one who is practicing devotional service, he knows the Vedas. Because conclusion of Vedas, after reading the Vedas, one should know and how to practice devotional service. That Prabhupada is telling. Next.
The entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. The tree of this material world has no end. And for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. This
No,
tree is
sufficient, Mother. So, thank you. So, what Prabhupada has told here, that this tree represents the material world. And the entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. That analogy, Krishna has given this analogy. In that analogy, the tree is considered to be material world. Then what are things are there? For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to banyan tree. So one who is engaged in devotional service, for him, banyan tree doesn't exist only for that time. He till now he has engaged in devotion. But one who is engaged in fruitive activities, that tree is very big. It is never ending. He wanders from one branch to another. Who is wandering? The person who is engaged in fruitive activities. The tree of this material world has no end, and for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. And till the time person is performing the fruitive activities, he will not get the liberation. Then after that, Prabhupada has mentioned the Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of tree. So what is the purpose of Vedic hymns? Is to liberate the person from this material world. And for that only, Krishna has given the Vedas. That is the purpose of Vedas. Purpose of Vedas is to liberate living entity from material world. Then And where are these Vedic hymns in this tree? So they are the leaves of this tree. Then next, these trees roots grow upward because they begin from where Brahma is located. So roots are upward, that Krishna has mentioned. And Prabhupada is mentioning they begin from where Brahma is located. So Brahma is here in the beginning of the root, and from there it is growing upwards in Brahma Loka only. If one understands this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it. So how one can get out of it? So one way is to understand the tree. Yes. So one who understands this tree is the knower of the Vedas. And Krishna has told. And what Krishna has told? Yastam Vedasa Vedavit. And Yastvam. And one who knows that tree and a Veda, one who knows that tree is the knower of the Vedas. So because of this, Prabhupada is mentioning this line. If one understands this tree of illusion, of avidya, and of material world, if one understands this tree of material world, Ashwatha tree, then he can go out of material world, go out of this tree. And because what will happen? He will know the Vedas, and knower of the Vedas will get out of this material world. He will liberate himself. Correct? That's why Prabhupada has mentioned this line. Yellow part, somebody can read.
This process of extrication should be understood. In the previous chapters, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement. And up to the 13th chapter, we have seen that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the best way. Now, the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from material activities and attachment to the transcendental service of the Lord. The process of breaking attachment to the material world is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. The root of this material existence grows upward. This means that it begins from the total material substance, from the topmost planet of the universe. From there, the whole universe is expanded, with so many branches representing the various planetary systems. The fruits represent the results of the living entity's activities, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation.
Thank you, bro.
Dhanwas,
So Prabhupada is explaining the tree. And why he is explaining tree? Because by knowing this tree, what will happen? We can get out of that tree. And so that's why Prabhupada is now explaining. And what he's telling, the process of extrication means getting out and getting out of this tree should be understood. And that's why we should understood, because by understanding this, we will be liberated. In this previous chapter, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement. So what are the processes which are mentioned till now by Krishna to get out of this material entanglement?
So, one way is the superior knowledge, that is overcoming the three modes of material nature.
Yeah. So one way is knowledge, and which Krishna has mentioned. Knowledge means jnana, and jnana means jnana yoga. So one way Krishna has mentioned is the practice of jnana yoga. It can frees us from material entanglement. And this is one of the way, correct. Another way,
Engaging in devotional service.
Yeah, correct. Thank you. Another way is devotional service. And in another way,
Prabhuji, another way is Karma Yoga.
first 6 chapters he has mentioned Karma Yoga. Okay. Another way, prominent way, Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga also he has mentioned in 6th chapter. So these are the prominent ways which he has mentioned. And in 13th chapter and in 14th chapter also, and many 7 to 12 also, and he has mentioned the best way. Now the basic principle of devotional service is detachment. So till now Krishna has mentioned devotional service is the best way to free us from material entanglement. And now in this devotional service, the detachment, and if we have detachment from other things and other than Krishna, things other than Krishna, we have detachment from that, and in definition of pure devotional service, and here the actual meaning of detachment is like something other than, like in definition of devotional service it is mentioned anya bhilashita shunya. So anya bhilasha, that should not be there, means we should have detachment. So that detachment from where we should have, from material activities, not from Krishna, and detachment from other things and other than Krishna, from that thing we should have, that is material activities, and attachment to service of Krishna or devotional service. Both things are required. And detachment from non-Krishna conscious things and attachment to Krishna conscious things. And now what Krishna is doing in the beginning, 5 verses. And so now Krishna is mentioning the beginning of this chapter, chapter 15. And so Krishna is mentioning how to we have detachment, how we importance of detachment to this material world. Krishna is explaining here. The root of material existence grows upward. That Krishna has told. They are going upward. This means that it begins from the total material substance, from the topmost planet of the universe, from Brahmaloka, which is the topmost planet, Brahmaloka. From there, they are growing up with so many branches and are representing the various planetary systems. Branches are coming down. Many planetary systems are there. The fruits represent the result of the living entities' activities. And the fruits are also there and on the branches. Leaves are there, fruits are there. Fruits Krishna has not mentioned. Till now he has not mentioned. But Prabhupada is telling they are dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Religion, economic development, sense gratification, liberation. 4 purusharthas. They are the fruits. Somebody can read the green one.
Now, there is no ready experience in this world of a tree situated with its branches down and its root upward. But there is such a thing, that tree can be found beside a reservoir of water. We can see that the trees on the bank reflects upon the water with their branches down and roots up. In other words, the tree of this material world is only a reflection of the world of the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as a tree's reflection is situated on water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this truth truly through an analytical study. Then he can cut off his relationship with it. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
bro. So what Prabhupada is telling, like one may say, and there's this kind of tree is imaginary tree and a not real tree. So Prabhupada is telling that we do not have the experience of this kind of tree where branches are going downward and roots are upward. But Prabhupada is telling we can see the uh, tree which is located on the banks of the water, reservoir of water. Then that we can see the reflection of that tree, where we can see in the water. Then in the reflection, what we see, the branches are downward and roots are upward. So from this, what we can learn, this material world and is a reflection of spiritual world. Whatever is there in material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Everything is just opposite. Whatever is there in spiritual world, in material world, everything is opposite. And a tree is reflected and situated in water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. So water is the cause of a reflection of a tree situated on the near that water or bank of the reservoir of that water. The water is the cause. Because of water, we are seeing the reflection. And then similarly, because of desire of living entity, there is this material world. And this material world is created and because of the desire of living entity. And one who wants to get out of this material existence must know this thoroughly through analytical study. Krishna has told that we must know this, and that Prabhupada has repeated. Then he can cut off his relationship with you. So what is the purpose of knowing? So that we can cut the relationship with that tree. We can detach from that tree of material existence. That is the purpose. Correct? Of knowing this tree. Somebody can read next.
This tree, being the reflection of the real tree, is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. The impersonalists take Brahman to be the root of this material tree, and from the root, according to Sankhya philosophy, come Prakriti, Purusha, then the three gunas, then the five gross elements, Pancha Mahabhuta, then the 10 senses, Dashendriya, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world into 24 elements. If Brahman is the center of all manifestations, then this material world is a manifestation of the center by 180 degrees, and the other 180 degrees constitute the spiritual world. The material world is the perverted reflection, so the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness, but in reality. The Prakriti is the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and the Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself, and that is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Since this manifestation is material, it is temporary. A reflection is temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off.
Thank you, bro. So what Krishna is telling, that this Krishna has just told that this tree, about this tree, and then Prabhupada is explaining that how this material world is a exact replica of the spiritual world, and the different philosophers, they consider this tree differently, and the impersonalist, and what is their consideration is Brahman to be the root of the tree. So what is the Krishna's understanding, devotee's understanding is uh, Brahma, and from Brahma Loka is the root. But impersonalist, what they consider, Brahman is the root. That is their wrong understanding. And from the root, according to Sankhya philosophy, and another philosopher, Sankhya, they say that from root comes the Prakriti, Purusha, then the three gunas, then the five gross elements, Panchamahabhuta, then the 10 senses, 24 elements, and all we have discussed. Where we have discussed 13.6 and 7. If Brahman is the center of all manifestation, then this material world is a manifestation of the center by 180 degrees. Means there is a complete difference between the spiritual world. Spiritual world is like this, then there is 180 degree like this, and material world is like this, 180 degree difference. Then the other 180 degrees constitute the spiritual world, and this 180, this is spiritual world. The material world is the perverted reflection, so the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness, but in reality. So variegatedness is the same between material world and spiritual world, but spiritual world is real. The Prakriti is the external energy of the Supreme Lord, but the Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself, and this we have studied, and that is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Since this manifestation is material, it is temporary. We know that this Prakriti is eternal, that we have studied, but temporary means forms are temporary, and whatever the objects they have form, that they are temporary. This we have studied before. A reflection is temporary, and forms are temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from where the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. So there is one real tree. That reflection is a material world. So what Prabhupada is telling, in order to free from this tree of material world, and we have to reflection we have to cut off, because this is perverted reflection. How we can cut off? By changing our desire, because based on this desire only, previously here Prabhupada has mentioned previous paragraph that desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. So on the basis of desire, and reflection is there, and like on the basis of water, reflection is there. So similarly, if we change the desire, then we cannot see the tree only, and then we will be in the spiritual world. Then pink one.
When it is said that a person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachment to this material world. If one knows that process, he actually knows the Vedas. One who is attracted by the ritualistic formulas of the Vedas is attracted by the beautiful green leaves of the tree. He does not exactly know the purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas, as disclosed by the personality of Godhead himself, is to cut down this reflected tree and attain the real tree of the spiritual world.
Thank you. So what Prabhupada is telling, the last point, and which I have mentioned, that when it is said that a person who knows the Veda and Vedavit, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachment to this material world. So, because why he knows? Because in Vedas it is mentioned how to liberate ourselves. So he knows that how to get liberation by detachment from this material world. So he know how to cut the attachment. If one knows that process, he actually knows the Vedas. One who is attracted by the ritualistic formulas of the Vedas is attracted by the beautiful green leaves of the tree. So, so one who knows and these Vedas, and then how he knows the Vedas? Because leaves, Krishna has mentioned, leaves are the hymns of the Vedas. They are the shlokas of the Vedas. So one has to know the shlokas of the Vedas for knowing the Vedas. So that person is attracted towards the green leaves of the in this whole material world, and where that person will be attracted towards the Vedas. And he doesn't exactly know the purpose of the Vedas. Before, if he is only getting attracted and towards the Vedas and only, then what will happen? He cannot understand the purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas, as disclosed by the personality of Godhead, is to cut down this reflected tree and attain the real tree of spiritual life. The purpose of the Vedas is to cut the tree of material world. And so that's why the person who knows the Vedas, who knows the Vedas, what he will do, he will be attracted to complete tree and not just the leaves. If he just attracted to the leaves, then what will happen? He cannot understand the purpose of the Vedas that Prabhupada has explained here. And if we know the complete tree, then only we can cut down the attachment to the tree. Okay, like this. This is the first verse we have completed. So we will stop here.